Okay.
This is the Getting to Know You segment. We got Tom McCormick here. He's just going to tell us a little bit about himself. So tell me a little bit about yourself.
A little bit about myself. Well, let's see. I've been born and raised here in the North Liberty area. Lived about 2.5 mile radius from where I was born my entire life. Grandparents' farm is where my dad lives today. I've been here my entire life. Married, got a wonderful wife, 3 children.
Does she have a name?
Yeah, her name's Karen. I'm sorry. Karen, and then the boys are Katie, Robert, and Andrew. So,
Okay.
Yep.
Are you involved with any organizations in this area?
Oh yes. Of course, since you're here, I'm involved with the IH Chapter 33. I've had the opportunity to serve on the board of directors for, I guess we're thinking about 8-9 years now. Time flies when you're having fun. Member of our local church. I've been there my entire life at our local church. Been a firefighter in our small community, volunteer firefighter for 29 years now.
You hold a position there? Yeah,
Firefighter, that's enough.
okay. I thought you're not a captain, or you're
Nope.
not a...
Nope,
Okay.
I'm totally happy with not having to wear a white hat.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
nope, it's just as easy to serve not having a title as it is having
Yeah.
a title.
I mean, everybody's got their place in things,
Yep.
and that's, that's fine. I don't know why I thought that.
Oh,
Yeah, I was under the impression that you were assistant chief or something. I don't
Nope.
know why. I don't know why.
nope, it's
That's fine.
totally
That's fine.
fine without a title.
Yeah.
For about 2 years now, I've served on our township advisory board. Just trying to make sure we are diligent with our township's tax dollars and that we're using our resources wisely, whether it be fire protection, ambulance service protection. So, own my own business, been blessed with my own electrical business, service repair, specifically mostly into residential trouble service repair.
And it's McCormick Electric?
McCormick Electrical Services.
For how many years?
Since 1999, so we're coming up on a 20-year anniversary in another year.
Wow.
So that time flies
You don't
too.
look a day over 20 years old.
Oh,
so,
gee, thanks. Well,
I don't know how you can have had a
that's
business for 20 years.
that's how my wife. That's how my boys get brownie points by my wife, is when they tell her she looks like 20 or 22. So good.
You must have been putting receps in diapers.
Pretty close. Close. Now I can remember when I was just starting out in the trade. A lot of people questioned my age, but your ringer's off, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
it hasn't been on.
Heck of a note, charge yourself $5 in your own video.
Yeah, it's me. It was me. Okay, let's get back. Where were we? You were in diapers putting receps.
Oh, well, that's what, like I say, I can remember the days when people would comment or question in regard to my age. It didn't look like I was old enough to be an electrician.
Right.
And so, fortunately now there's silver, so I hope that comes with seniority or something, or wisdom and knowledge. I always say that that silver or gray is due to my kids.
Okay. All right. Well, why don't you tell me about your first love?
My first love. Well, my first love's always been farming. If I could be profitable at it again and not have to face all the fluctuations and I call it gambles that the American farmer has to face, I'd be doing it today. American farmer has to roll all the dice for everything he does. And so, unfortunately, the 80s and late 80s, early 90s weren't real good to my family or myself, and so I had to make a different career path, and that's where I chose comes back to the electrical. I chose that. Fortunately, we were blessed to be able to still keep the family farm and still own the property that my grandfather put together and my dad put together, and so we're still living on one corner of that and still own that property in the family. So
Good.
saved
Wonderful.
it from the auction block. So versus so many unfortunate family farms.
Yeah, well, it's tough. I mean, it's the world we live in. A farm's got to be a certain size now, and to go from not farming to trying to start a farm is near impossible.
I couldn't even imagine how a young individual could ever think of starting a farm today. You know, there are a lot of truck patch type people still doing odds and ends and stuff, but to go to productive and to be able to market your product now
And support a family.
and support a family, you know, there used to be, that's where our family farm ended up, where Dad worked off the farm to be able to support the family and still farm at that time almost 800,000 acres and work off the farm and still farm. That's not a life at that point. I mean, that's survival. And
But we obviously did a little, talked a little, preparing for this, and it was really intriguing when you talked a little bit about your hero. So maybe you'd like to share a little about your hero.
I would, yeah. That'd be my dad. I remember growing up in school and kids that have Superman or Spider-Man or as their superheroes or Incredible Hulk, and I guess from day one, it was always my dad. He provided for the family, worked day in, day out, just a lot of times didn't seem like you seen much of Dad because he was at the farm. If you wanted to see Dad, you went to the farm, and so I learned a lot, from Dad. Dad used to joke and say that the best gopher he ever had was me before I learned how to drive tractor. So.
How about learning to drive the tractor? You got any stories about maybe when you were young driving tractor?
Oh, yes.
No?
Yeah, I'll share a couple. The first time I remember come home and was with Dad, and I was 3 and my brother was like 2, and there's 13 months between the two of us. And so I come home and I shared with Mom. I says, Mom, I says, I got to drive the big tractor today. And she says, you did? And she's kind of playing off that, yeah, I was in a cab tractor with my dad and brother all day plowing, so figured I'd sat in the lap of Dad. And she says, well, who's in the tractor? I says, well, Tim. That was my brother. And she goes, and who else? And I says, nobody. And she goes, well, where was your dad? And I says, well, he was across the field stepping off the next land. So that didn't go over so well for Dad. So another little story was first time actually driving, and it was our driving tractor by myself. I was 4 years old, and Dad needed help baling straw. Well, on the old I wasn't big enough yet to turn the steering wheel at the end of the field. So Dad would get me headed down the windrow, and my job was to hold the steering wheel and get to the end of the field. Dad would hop off the wagon, jump on the tractor, get us turned around the next row, and off I'd go again. We had a great system down until about that time Mom cleared the edge of the cornfield, and her car tooled right into the field, and she motioned at me to get in the car, and she pointed at Dad and says, you come here. So that ended Dad's baling buddy that day. So those are a couple good stories that I remember.
Yeah, that's kind of young. I mean, yeah, we talked, and I mean, it's the way things had to be. When you're trying to make a go of it, and you just learn that you got to do what you got to do. Yeah. Yeah, if you'd got caught by Child Protective Services, your father might have been
Never
in
see Dad
handcuffs.
again. Yeah, you know, in this day and age, and that's too bad. You know, like I say, necessarily today, because I'm not around the equipment with farming. You know, I've got my hobby, but I can't imagine doing the same thing with my son. They're getting older now, so I'm more and more comfortable with them doing things with the tractors and equipment. But yeah, to do what I did for Dad or with Dad or whatever, I could never imagine that today.
Yeah, and like I told you before, you know, it was one of those things. Your dad must have saw something in you that he trusted, and knew you were capable of it. Because nothing came of it, you know what I mean? Easily
Right.
could have,
It easily could have,
but
you know.
I'm you know, everything was going slow.
I can, you know, with that reminded me of a story my dad had trusted, because I went to help another farmer one day, and my younger brother, like I say, a little bit younger, and he was probably 12 at that time. Dad had him drive home a tractor from a field, and it just so happened the farmer got done with me and dropped me off at the farm as my brother come back to the farm with the tractor. And I says, "Where's Tim?" And Dad says, "Well, Tim's bringing the tractor." And I says, "Dad, he don't know how to drive that tractor." And he goes, "I'm doing fine." Well, Tim come tooling in the driveway and right through a gate in the barnyard and plowed into 2-3 augers that were parked in the aisleway. And in the whole time this is all going down, I can still remember Dad running and jumping on the back of the 826, climbing over the seat to get the tractor shut down. You know, I guess he just assumed because I could do it, that my younger brother could do it. But like you said earlier, how easily, unfortunately for there, my brother didn't get hurt, Dad didn't get hurt.
Why don't you let everybody know about when you bought your, you know, the details about the first tractor that you bought, who, you know, where you bought it. And
Oh, the first tractor I owned was actually the last tractor that my grandfather owned. Grandpa bought it. It was a 1-year-old 656. We had it on our farm up until, which at that point in time, my uncle and my dad farmed together on the home farm with my grandpa. And when they split in the early 70s, my uncle took the 656. Well, then when my uncle, unfortunately, the farming wasn't good to him, you know, we talked about the economy earlier, and had his auction, I was able to buy that tractor back and bring that tractor home. So that was the first tractor to my illness.
that's where the bug started.
That's where the full-size tractor bug bit me.
All right. Yeah, I've seen a shirt said, "I went to the doctor, and the doctor said I'm fine. I just need more tractors."
Need more tractors? So I can attest to that. My
That's
wife
all.
got me a shirt that says, "Tractors like potato chips. You can't just have one."
That's exactly right. Now this is 656, right?
Yeah. Yes.
That's a gas tractor?
That's a gas tractor.
Okay. Is there a reason that's a gas tractor or not?
Yeah, it's kind of a funny little story goes with that. My grandfather was a World War II veteran. He was a mechanic in World War II, and he said that he hated nothing worse than the diesel engines. At that time period, you know, a diesel engine was a mechanic's nightmare, and so he would not have a diesel engine on the farm. So hence the big gas 656 tractor. And we used to talk about you took gas to it in the morning and you took gas to it at lunch, and you know, that's how you worked it all day. So yeah, that was.
So what year is that then? So that carried from World War II clear to.
Well, that was a 65. I think a 65 656, and so, you know, that was the last tractor Grandpa had bought when he was farming.
So some wounds go pretty deep, don't they?
Wounds go pretty deep.
Yeah.
You know, so
Okay.
I guess that kind of ties in. I was talking about the first diesel tractor that came to our farm. My dad about got disinherited over that tractor. It was our 826, hence the German diesel. So it was always kind of disinherited, whether it was because it was a German, being a World War II vet, or whether it was a diesel engine. So it wasn't until that tractor proved itself on the farm that Grandpa didn't mind having it around, and later spent some time
He
on the
probably
seat.
never said it out loud, did he, though?
What?
That they approved of the eighth?
Well, never come out and said approved of it, but you never.
He just didn't grumble.
He didn't grumble about it. It proved it was able to prove itself on the farm.
I guess the World War II veterans, what they saw, they have the right to have those deep
wounds.
Yes. Yeah.
You know, any of our servicemen today, back then, and just we fly a flag at home 24/7 and at my office 365. It just if I can do that little bit to show our support of our armed forces men and women, then it's just a little token of what we can do.
Yeah. If it's not for men like them doing what they did, we don't get to do what we do.
Exactly.
And I hope we never forget that.
Exactly.
Let's see. There was a little story you told me about one cold day that you were the only one that braved the elements.
Oh, yeah, another tractor driving story. Yeah, but it was my senior year of high school, and we had all in the FFA for National FFA Week, which is around Washington's birthday in February. One of the activities for the week was to tractor drive to school. Well, our high school from here is about 12 miles, and it happened to be below freezing temperatures that day.
And the heater didn't work in your cab.
On that 826, it's an open station. I did put the heat houser on the tractor, but I was the only one to drive a tractor to school that day. And one thing I guess I didn't share earlier when you and I were talking was my dad wasn't aware that I took the tractor to school that day, because he'd already went to work in town, and it wasn't till a few years later somebody said something about how crazy I had to be for driving a tractor in that cold of weather, and Dad goes, "What?" So that was the first my dad found out, was several years later, that I drove that tractor to school in February.
Okay. Sub-zero, 12 miles, 2 ways, uphill both ways, too.
Oh yeah, probably so, uphill
Uphill
both ways. That'd beat riding the dinosaur.
Yeah. Exactly. He's barefooted, too.
Barefooted, that's right.
That's right. He was so poor he didn't have a stocking cap either. Let's see, I'm looking at my notes here. Maybe let's, why Harvester for you? Why Harvester?
Well, I guess for one, I've always liked the red tractors, but when I look back at my family and the history, my granddad, coming out of the service, was a setup man for an IH dealer, and so I think that's where probably some of his red love started. When he first moved to this part of, moved to North Liberty, one of his first tractors was a Farmall F30, and later replaced it with our M that we still have, our original M.
You have that?
And yep, it's over at my dad's place. Okay. And then my dad, of course, and kind of followed suit too. I mean, my grandpa always had anything from the F30, the M, the H, 404, a 450, the 656. So he had quite a few red tractors. Dad done with the 826. Myself, like I said, I always carpet farming. Always preferred the red tractors on the carpet farming. Mm-hmm. And 1985 merger with IH and Case. I rode to the dealership, Raiders, down by in Bremen. Raiders are a member of our, Raider Brothers are a member of our club. Went to their dealership with my grandfather, which I used to do for parts runs when I got the opportunity. You always get to see the toys on the shelf, so to speak. And Raiders had, it made a nice set, was my argument, but they had a 3288, I'm sorry, 5288, 5488, 2590, 3290, and a 3294 and a 2594. So that was the last of the reds, the last of the white cases, and then the new red cases. And I bought in November, just before Christmas, I bought with my own saving money all 6 of those tractors. And I remember the non-front wheel assist were $25 a piece, and the front wheel assist were $30 a piece. And I come home with 6 tractors on the front seat of the pickup truck between Grandpa and I. Not only was I in trouble for buying before Christmas, but so was Grandpa for letting me buy them. And his argument was it was his money, he gets to do what he wants to do. So that kind of started really more and more of my collecting, because I really got started with the toys. And so I've got a lot of toy tractors, predominantly, like I say, about everything is IH when it comes to the tractors, toys.
You do some dealing with toys too, don't you?
A little bit. You know, pretty much the dealing that I've done has been liquidating the offlines that I've had. But about everything has been IH is what unless it's something I played with. I've got some shelves with the stuff that I played with or had as a kid.
How about that that pedal tractor up there?
Oh,
Maybe talk a little bit about those and the
sure,
car too.
Sure. Well, the car, we'll start with that. That was my wife's as a child. That was her car. That 1466, it's got a black stripe on it. I had repainted that when I was in high school in shop class as a project, and so it got a black and silver stripe like the Case IH at the time. I wished I'd have just painted it red and got the right decals. I've got all the parts to restore it someday. Mm-hmm. The 4-wheel drive up on top, I bought that for my boys. And that Mccormick, we bought that also, and that was kind of a fluke. I bought that actually from Raiders. And the salesman asked me when I bought that for the boys, they asked me, why would you buy that Mccormick instead of buying another IH tractor? And I says, how many kids get their own name on a tractor? So that was the reason I bought that tractor. So that was kind of a neat.
Okay. Now speaking of the Mccormick name, mm-hmm. You may got a little bit of another connection possibly. You've told me about.
Yeah, I've always kind of enjoyed genealogy a little, and so always been trying to dig a little bit to find if there's any connection between the Cyrus Hall McCormick family, and our family. I've got it dug back through, all the way through the United States and back to Ireland. I've got a lot of common first names between Cyrus Hall's family and my family line. Unfortunately, it seems like I'm going to have to go to Ireland to find those final connections, even if it even exists. But I've kind of come up to a dead end at this point. But it's multi-generations. It'd be like my 4th great-great-grandfather and Cyrus Hall McCormick's grandfather. There's a lot of common names in those first names. And they're in the same area. An indicator.
It's close somewhere.
It's close. Same part of Ireland is where they came out of, so that's kind of another indicator. And there's also
a commonality in Chicago too, right?
Just it kind of makes me lean that way, thinking maybe the family, the Cyrus Hall family, the stories come back to Ireland, that the Cyrus McCormick family was successful in America. Maybe that's a reason for my 4th great-grandfather to come this direction. And unfortunately, he was killed in a fluke tree falling accident in Cook County. And so that was him.
Yeah, he was so he was in the Chicago area, which would, I mean, that's the way it was back then. But, you know,
Yeah,
everyone
and that's-
talks amongst each other, and yeah, they needed help, and so you know they'd write back to wherever, and you know people would come. So
Just a thought anyway, or a thought process.
yeah.
But I'm still not receiving any checks, so.
Well, it's not that. It would be. I agree with you. With you know, there's too much there to think that there's obviously something,
Right.
but yeah, it's not real close, which
so
you've admitted to.
Exactly.
So, yeah,
Exactly.
Yeah, but anyway, so I think that was all we were really planning on talking about, other than. Would you like to, how was I going to say it? Would you just like to tell us how you met your wife?
Oh, you had to bring that one back up. Yeah. When I was out on a service call, I got a call from a home warranty company we used to do service work for, and ended up at this young lady's home, and we get to chatting as I'm figuring out her electrical problem and fixing the problems she had that day, and we get chatting about just life, different things, things we enjoy or whatever. So next thing I find myself as I'm saying my goodbyes and finish the paperwork and ready to leave, it came up as a common thing that we both enjoyed a cup of coffee occasionally. And as I'm saying my goodbyes, I asked her, would you like to get a cup of coffee sometime? And as quick as I said that, I realized what I had just said, and so I quickly dismissed myself from the house. Shortly thereafter, I get a phone call, and caller ID pulls up her phone number, because I used to answer all the business lines myself. And it's like, uh-oh. And then she replied that, yeah, she'd like to get together at some point in time. So that was kind of the story on how I met my wife. So
you did something that today, if one of your employees did, you'd
we'd have to have a little bit of a chat,
Can't be
unfortunately.
doing
We
this.
can't
Can't
be
be
doing
doing
that.
this.
I shouldn't have done that either, but
yeah.
fortunately the stars aligned for me.
Well, isn't that usually the way it is? Sometimes all the planets line up, and then good things happen.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Yep.
Well, okay, I'm going to shake your hand and say thanks for sharing
for
this
coming
with
over.
everybody. And hopefully some people in Chapter 33 will look at this and get to know a little bit more about you. And we got a meeting coming up here that we're going to have at your spot, your house.
Yep.
So what do you got about that? What do you want to tell us about? Why should anybody drive clear
To North Liberty.
to North Liberty, Indiana, to come to Tom McCormick's house? Why?
Well, we were, like I said, as I said earlier, we've been blessed in life, and I truly give credit where credit is due on that to our Lord. And this past year I was blessed with getting, as it's been jokingly called, Tom's Dog House or Tom's Toy Box, or I've heard it, I think it came from my dad even somewhere, the Taj Mahal, or Tom's Mahal.
Tom's Mahal.
And so,
Pretty nice place.
I've been blessed with
It's
a nice,
pretty nice place.
I've been blessed with a nice workshop put together. It's half heated, it's half cold storage. It gives me a place to tinker on my treasures, my tractors, and any other projects we have. It gives me a place to do things with my dad for projects. It gives me a place to do things with my boys. I guess I look at later in life as my boys get their driver's license and start running around. If they want to tinker on their vehicles, I'd rather them and their buddies come back here and work and tinker around versus out roaming the street somewhere, because they're going to goof around, they're going to chit-chat in the garage, they're going to hang out somewhere. I'd feel much more comfortable knowing that they can come here, refrigerator, and get the type of soft drinks that I prefer they have versus the soft drinks that we wish they wouldn't have. So that's why the shop's here.
So we hope that plenty come out from chapter 33, see Tom's shop, see his collection.